I have Nana Yao Sapong. He's joining us this morning. Nana Yao, good morning to you.
Good morning.
The great transformational plan, GTP, he's spearheading some of the great people who are communicating for a good morning to you, Nana Yao Sapong.
Good morning, my brother. You're looking great.
Thank you very much. After a great weekend of trying to analyze how the impact of the strike that ideally would have taken off this morning. Well, I'm told that it's also on this morning. So we'll see how that goes. Edu Tamakul, good morning to you.
Good morning, Roland.
You have a stack of papers. What are they for?
Yes, now I'm intercepting documents, and it's only fair that I salute the Honorable Samuel Okuyeto Ablakwa, Tom James Bond, 007. But what he does is to intercept documents that have the effect of destroying the country. And organized labor for standing up to a regime that has a short lifespan, but is determined to still capture the resources of these states for a few. Sometimes the pain I have is when I look at MPP members who Akufo-Addo has used to now enrich his family members. I get exceedingly sad. Can't you people see the facade, the smoke around the person of Akufo-Addo and Bawumia? Today, Bawumia's brother has made in excess of 200 million Ghana cedis from sole source contract. Go around and look at MPP constituency chairman. We live in the same villages, communities with you. I look at MPP communicator. They come to radio shows, sometimes with motorbike. And you look at how their own officials are stealing, they are looting like there's no tomorrow. I am particularly sad. And I want all of us to wake up. Where we have gotten to is no longer NDC, MPP, or CPP, or Movement for Change. It's about Ghana for once. It's about Ghana for once. Join all of us for change on December 7th, 2024. The change must happen. If not, Akufo-Addo and Bawumia will take Ghanaians for granted.
Well, let me introduce my
morning,
topic.
I'm so sad.
I never introduced the topic, then you went. So, following that strike that has been declared by organized labor, we had swift responses within a 24-hour period of SNITs. Again, subsequently, the statement being reissued and signed by the chair, Elizabeth Ohene of the SNIT board. And subsequently, organized labor says that they are organizing press conference this morning. Thereafter, well, they would then communicate what their own decisions are. Before then, they'll be meeting, and thereafter they'll do that press conference. And a couple of you already say you're looking. So we're discussing whether the action taken by organized labor and then also what they intended to do should be a great tool, and how we can use that as precedent to force the government that we always elect into office to do what we want by us as citizens. So that's what. And Nana Koda says, hey, brother, just good morning. You start your presentation already. Yes. Mensa K. Mensa, good morning to you. Please make sure you share the stream. Jeff Tajima Bedu, also share the stream as well. We'll be joined by a political scientist, a leading member of the MPP as well. Dr. Amwakoba has lived in the States for a very long time, very much conversant with the democracies of the day, especially best practice in the United States. He'll be joining us this morning as well. And we're having some great discussions. He'll be joining us from Kumasi. But now, let me also apprise you of what the UTAG, that's the University Teachers Association of Ghana, are saying. They are saying that the Nationwide Industrial Action and the dissolution of SNIT board, that is their current position, because they believe that the board and top management of SNIT have demonstrated bad judgment and poor corporate governance skills that significantly eroded public trust in their ability to effectively and efficiently continue carrying out their responsibilities. And so they want the dissolution of the board and subsequently the management as well. Is that a fair comment for them to make a firm decision that they need to take at all. And there's an interesting one, and this one, we have a second one apparently. Among all the releases that have been issued by various groups to be part of this solidarity with organized labor following the strike, there's this one that struck me. I thought that you should also know. And this one is coming from an institution. We'll have the next one as well put on the screen for you. And okay, so we'll have it. Let me just... this one is from the National Union of Tricycle Operators of Ghana. And they also say that they've joined the strike action, or the strike as well. I don't know what you make of it, but they're quite interesting. But Nani Asapong, what do you make of all this?
Good morning.
How did it strike you that the whole organized labor could do that, to the point that even the Union of Tricycle Operators, Aboboya, etc., could even say that they want to join this?
Good morning once again to yourself. Good morning to your viewers. And I know we have a couple of people who are driving but still would be listening to you via other channels. Roland, your question would make me ask you this. I do not know if you have an understanding of what organized labor across any jurisdiction can do. Organized labor can go to the extent of even changing a ruling government. It is unfortunate that in Ghana we always have political interferences in our organized labor. But for the purposes of this discussion and for what organized labor has done, I think it was victory for Ghana.
Victory for Ghana?
Victory for our pensioners. The pensioners of today, the pensioners of tomorrow, and myself and you when we also go on pension. And I applaud organized labor for putting aside their emotions and political affiliations and whatsoever that influences their decisions. And for once, thinking about Ghana and thinking about what this single action of the government could have caused this country. I would also join my brother to applaud Honorable Kujato Ablakwa, at least, for the expose. It was timely. You know, many people also forget to applaud the media, at least for giving us a space to talk about it and to make Ghanaians understand what this single action of Senate could have cost our future. Now, if organized labor continues this way, I am optimistic that there would be no government in this country that will look down on their efforts, and there will be no government that would rule or lead this nation without looking at its back. Governments will be held accountable for every single action that they do. Roland, you see, over the weekend, whilst I was monitoring the media space, then I came to agree with what Alan Chamantin said, that the public sector in itself needs reforms.
Meaning what?
Meaning we have to be able to put in some more pressing measures to be able to reform and restructure our public sector. And this would also ensure, or would be able to make it possible for our public sector to become much more powerful. Roland, if you look at our GTP, I know you have a copy. The page 41 of the GTP talks about public reforms. And one of the forms that I would want to read out is the fact that Alan plans to institute a mechanism to promote meritocracy, that is the appointment of persons based on merits into positions, and also recognize and reward public sector personnel for exceptional contribution to formulations and executions of public sector policies that has direct influence or impact on the nation.
Why is this critical to this conversation?
It is critical to this conversation because at the end of the day, all of these persons who are involved are civil servants and public servants. All those board members who have been involved have served in public space before. Now, based on what merit did we appoint the management who took this decision?
You mean the SNIT management?
In my view, the management of SNIT did not do due diligence. If you're asking me,
let me just introduce quickly. So you said the management did not do due diligence. So you take it from there. Dr. Amoako is one of the leading political scientists. We have great analysts, governance persons. So one of the leading members of the MPP one time tried to contest to be chairman of the party just to ensure that there's reform in the governing party. He's joining us on Zoom right from Kumasi. Good morning to you, Dr. Amoako.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Okay, great. All right. So we've established him. Please. Okay. So we'll be with you subsequently. Nani else?
Yes,
go ahead.
Saying,
okay.
It is important that we appoint people on merit, people who have an understanding of what we're doing. I do not think if indeed, I'm actually not touching on the academia, no, but as to whether they have an understanding of even what pensions were and the effect of what they were about to do and the effect of wrongly investing pensions funds. Prior to this, the Minister for Employment and Labour was in Parliament. Now, he was so confident that the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, the NPRA, had actually approved of the sale of the 60% of SNIT shares. What due diligence did they do? If we have 5 hotels, and out of the 5, we have some of these hotels that are making profit, that have paid dividends to shareholders, then it means that there was something fundamentally wrong with the management style or management structure of the other hotels. Did we have other alternatives of bringing back these hotels aside just the sale of it? Did they consider the person behind the company that had shown interest in buying the hotels? Did they consider the long-term effect? Did they actually even consider the impact of the insider trading? This whole process started, I think, somewhere in 2018, if I'm right. Now, in 2018, the man behind this whole deal was in Parliament.
You mean Brian Echampo?
He's a member of the government. He has access to government business. He has access to government information. Did the management of SNIT actually consider all of this before pushing this whole deal? Roland, and I would also want to add my voice to the call that the board of directors for SNIT and that of the National Pension Regulatory Authority, the PRA should be dissolved. It's unfortunate that one of my most revered personalities, Madam Elizabeth, is the board chair of SNEF. But we are talking about Ghana. We are talking about our future. We are talking about certain standards that our future generation, the future generation, will look up to. In my view, the board didn't help. The core mandate of these boards of these companies are supposed to advise and ensure that managerial decisions, policy managerial decisions, are well thought through before they are implemented. To what extent did they do due diligence as a board when management presented this to them?
You didn't read the Elizabeth Ohene article that was published in the Daily Graphic?
See, when I say this, that's one day people say that I like speaking tree. No, brofo no troy.
Or tro brofo keke?
Tro brofo. You understand? She had no other option but to write what she wrote. It is not about legalities.
Then what is it about?
It is about morals. It is about investment. That is what we are talking about. We are talking about people's lives, not about some legal process that you have to follow. But then everything in Ghana will be sold. No, but we're here when they wanted to sell. Somebody wanted to go into our what's the name? The forest reserve. I've forgotten the name of the forest reserve. And surprisingly, they had the guts to actually present to us documentations that had given them the legal authority to go into the forest reserve to go and explore whether or not they could do galamsey in there. Let's be real. It's not about legalities. It's not about the law. The morals of it.
Okay.
Now, if we are to take the procedures out and ask Madam Elizabeth and her board that here, in her own view, in her own opinion as a pensioner, and for the sake of her children's children, would she advise SNET to do a bad investment? Roland, how old is Rock City? 2 years. When we are talking about strategic investors, we are not just talking about the money. In any case, Rock City did not even have the money. But when we are talking about strategic investment, we are talking about experience. Has Rock City actually faced a storm in hospitality management before? No. If you would ask me, go to Rock City and take their documents, all right, their reports, and study it. You will notice that almost more than 70 to 80% of their business from the time it was established until now are government businesses that were sent to them. And so, should this current government go, would Rock City, as they're talking about, perform in that same manner? Looking out for a strategic investor does not limit you to just the money. The experience in the business
also matters.
Okay,
we'll come back for another round. But the question that UTAC seem to be directly posing to government is that we want a dissolution of the board and even management, and to the point that even MPRA, which subsequently had approved after that disapproval, that should be a decision that needs to be made. Do you think that is fair? And how does that dovetail into all this that has happened, this drama?
Roland, once again, good morning. Before I answer your question, I want to remind you that come next weekend, H.E. John Dramani Mahama is leading a walk from Bogas, Spintex to Nungwa to showcase once again the 24-hour economy policy proposal. Of all the research that has been done, key on the minds of Ghanaians is the question of the economy and creating jobs. So I want to invite your media platform to join us. Now, that said, I also want to join my brother Nanaya in saluting the media in this country in carrying out this critical work of exposing the deadly conspiracy hatched between SSNIT, Brian Achampong, the presidency, to sell off 60% of our, pensioners' stake in those 4 hotels. You see, before I proceed, if you look at the Send Capital report, and remember that Dr. Sam...
You mean the transaction advisors?
Yeah, Dr. Sam Mensah, who happens to be the transaction advisor on this particular project. In his report, and if you look at the report, it is dated 24th May 2024. Now, in this report, and in fact, let me just read, it is addressed, quote, to the Board of Trustees. Yes. Now, the chair of the Board of Trustees of SSNIT, right, is Madam Elizabeth Ohene. Correct. Now, this is what the report says, and I just want to read the relevant portions. It says, assuming that SSNIT accept a 2-year plan with semi-annual payments and an interest rate of 2.5%, the periodic payment that will be required of Rock City will be $7.8 million. That is 109 million Ghana cedis. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. Rock City's financials cannot support this transaction. The table below shows that Rock City's total projected annual revenue for 2024 cannot meet the half-yearly installment payment of 109 million Ghana cedis. In addition, and this is where it even gets interesting, in addition, the company does not have the cash reserve to support the installment payment. This was directly addressed to the Board of Trustees, chaired by Madame Elizabeth Ohene. Now, Madame Elizabeth Ohene had written an article in the Daily Graphic on June 26, 2024, coming out of the hotels. As at the time Madame Elizabeth Ohene put up this article, she had seen the report by the transaction advisor saying that Rock City do not have the financials to support the transaction. But nonetheless, the woman who had been put on the board as the chair was still supporting the transaction when her own transaction advisor was telling her that Rock City did not have the financials to support the transaction. What more can be reckless? What more can be a breach of her fiduciary to the trusts?
But if you read the article, she does indicate that it was done with due diligence.
Please, I'm coming. You see, you took a transaction advisor that I do not have the technical expertise. Mm-hmm. So advise me on what I should do. 24th May 2024, your advisor wrote to you telling you that they have looked at Rock City's numbers, their financials, and as far as they are concerned, Rock City financials do not and cannot support the transaction. Meanwhile, a month later, Madame Elizabeth Ohene was writing in the Daily Graphic supporting the transaction. Even worse, President Akufo-Addo met organized labor and was basically begging them to support the transaction. That notwithstanding, a week later, the SSNIT boss, Kofi Bonsompem Osafo-Maafo, and his name had become notorious with all stinking deals. A Japan deal, he's there. And in fact, the records say that he was made SSNIT Director General to okay this particular transaction. What in God's name do these people want from us? What exactly do they want from the people of this country?
I think I have to go into the article and quote things for you.
If you read Madam Elizabeth Ohin's article, what she sought to do is to undermine the effort of Honorable Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa.
You can't say that.
Hold on.
The whole board chair.
And whitewash the transaction. And like I told you, Dr. Sam Mensah, his article, the report, the transaction advice, is copied addressed directly to the Board of Trustees, of which Madam Elizabeth Ohin is the chair. And so, as at the 26th day of June, when she was defending this transaction, heaven and earth, going to Abutia, her hometown, back, defending this transaction, she knew that there was a caution. What more can be reckless? And so I associate with a call by UTAC that Madam Elizabeth Ohin chaired board should be resigning. They have demonstrated that the pensions of our people are not safe in their hands. If you permit, and listen carefully, Madam Elizabeth Ohin is 75 years.
What has that got to do with?
She has nothing to lose.
What do you mean by that?
She has nothing to lose.
She was appointed based on her experience to be the board chair.
What experience? Notwithstanding what you claim to be experience, they went for a transaction advisor.
You have a minute to wrap.
What it means is that they admit the limitation in terms of their knowledge and wanted an expert to advise them accordingly. That notwithstanding, they have taken the initiative to still sell the distance. In fact, what broke the camel's back was when the Minister of Labour went to Parliament and said they are in support, and that Akufo-Addo Bawumia are in support of selling our hotel to Brian Acheampong, a cabinet minister. Now, what it tells you is that this is a transaction that has the blessings of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, that has the blessing of the entire Akufo-Addo cabinet, has the blessing of, in fact, even when
you can't draw that conclusion. Blessings from where? The State Board.
Even when organized labor
has this independence to operate.
When organized labor came out to say that they were going on strike, and SSNIT eventually said they were terminating this transaction. Yes, I will wrap up. The Director Communication of MPP, Richard Ahiagba, has been published by various papers saying that the MPP is disappointed in the decision to terminate this transaction. What it tells you, and I want to say this, in the unlikely event of voting for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, the MPP is going to repackage this hotel and sell to one of their own.
You can't draw that conclusion.
No, and you see, the reason why I say this is that the only thing that stopped them...
You just grossly make the statement.
Please,
you can't make the statement.
The only thing that stopped them is the fact that government picked intel from the national security perspective.
Well, let's go to Dr.
All,
Makuba.
no, hold on. That all organized labor going on strike, we were going to have a Kenyan kind of situation.
Dr. Makuba, good morning.
And that is why they quickly pull out. Don't vote for Bawumia. A vote for Bawumia is
Dr.
a
Makuba,
vote
good morning.
to repackage these hotels and be sold to one MPP person. And we must resist that.
Dr. Makuba, just unmute yourself. So, if I make reference to the article that was written by Elizabeth Ohin, who is the board chair for SSNIT, she also goes on in the downward paragraph to say that advertisements were followed by various public statements by SSNIT executives at various stages. Once the process got going, indeed, the last two times that SSNIT appeared before the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, the subject of trying to find a strategic investor in the hotels came up. And SSNIT was then urged to hurry with the process and conclude what it was doing. That goes by saying that the process was transparent and also had gone through the various processes on organs of government as far as dotting the I's and then getting the checks done. that made this legit in a way. And so we can say that it is the pressure of organized labor that is rather making SSNIT and its board back down on their decision. Is that a fair question to ask?
No. Because if your own transaction advisor tells you that this entity you are trying to unload your hotels to is not in the position to pay for it, then you have done double whammy. You sold the hotels, you sold your assets, hopefully to get the money and do something else with it. And yet he's telling you, this guy, if you sell it to him, he will take it and you will not get your money. Why would you sell it to him? That's the question. That alone tells you that this is not a right decision. And you are making an advertisement when you have not decided exactly what you do. He has told you, maybe Madam Ohini wanted the transaction advisor to say, therefore, you shouldn't sell it to him. That is your decision to make. The transaction advisor is not in charge of everything. You should know what he means by what he said. And yet, because it...
Dr. Makuba.
Didn't say therefore...
Go ahead. All right. So, please go ahead.
We live in this country. We know what's going on. Various big men are all behind it. Their president is behind it. Because all he has to do is say, stop it. And everybody will stop. But he won't say that. So this one is saying this, this one is saying it. All an orchestration to get SSNIT to agree. Why? What is in it for you?
Are you sure that the president is behind and he has the approval of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government?
Yes, I'm sure. Because he didn't say anything. That alone speaks volume. If you are the steward of the nation's assets and something is going wrong, you say nothing. Well, why are you? Under the table? He is behind. Didn't he come out to tell the organ labor to support it? So what do you call that? He told them to support it, but they said no. So let's be honest. This country pretty much rotten to the core. Everybody is looking for money and get it whichever way you can get it. And there are so many people behind the scenes supporting it without showing their face. This is what is going on. It's akin to create, loot, and share. You don't show your face. You come and give a judgment as if it's neutral, but it is. When we see what is going on, we behave as if we don't see it. You are a board chair. Do your business in the boardroom. What are you writing articles for? Who are you trying to convince? Because you know, most likely, the board in itself may not approve. So put pressure on them. This is what is going on. This is how all these things happening left and right. This is how they go. There's someone behind it who wants the thing to be done. Come to Kumasi, most government lands that in Shiazo have been sold.
Dr.
Dr.
Makuba, just hold on there. I know that there's been a lot of concern that has been raised across board. Even Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa here in Accra raising issues about prisons, lands, Johnny Hughes himself doing a lot of exposés on it. And you are saying categorically that even government lands in certain sections of Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital, which is also the hub of the ruling party, your party itself, seem to have been vested into private hands?
Yes, categorically.
That's serious.
That's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. I won't mince words about it. That is what I'm saying. It's create, loot, and share. If it's government property, nobody takes care of it. So they find someone and give it to him. Whether or not they get a cut, I can't say. But most likely, that's what happens. What is your motivation for supporting it then? What's your motivation? Because Mr. Champon is so handsome. What is it? What? The ones charged with safeguarding the properties of the state are the very ones who are looting the state. I'll say it. It's a loot. That's what it is. Nothing else.
Okay.
If you want to start something, you do your due diligence and consider all possibilities before you start advertising for this. You haven't done it, you have advertised. Why? Because you want, that's what you want to sell it. So all the due diligence you are doing is for nothing. That is fraud. There's nothing worse than that. Is fraud. The one supposed to protect it is the one who is trying to sell it. Why?
Now, I want you to frame yourself well, because we only seem to be getting your head. So just frame yourself well so that you'll be in the shot very well for me.
Okay. You want me to come forward a bit?
No. Rather lean back. Don't lean forward.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay, it's good. It's good. So, okay, so just in 2 minutes, how would you say, either in approval or disappointed are you that we've had a number of concerns that had been raised prior to the decision by organized labor, to which the government had seemed not to listen to those concerns, whether it's from Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa and then some of you as well, and then ultimately even Labour itself before they decided to take that decision on Friday? In 2 minutes.
Well, once Labour comes in, it is the people. So they disagree with you. They can win. They will win. You cannot win. Once Labour comes in and they disagree, you can't win. They take on industrial action. What are you going to do? Before you know it, the whole country is up in arms. As it happened in Kenya. They are afraid of that. They are afraid for something like that to happen. But the way they are doing things, they are not careful. That is exactly what is going to happen. Because they looted this country long enough, talking both sides of their mouth. Everybody is looking for money. That's what's going on. Right? Everybody is looking for money. Is that what they are supposed to do? Or they are supposed to be stewards of the economy? No, they don't care about the economy. They care about what money they can get.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Makuma. We'll come back again on this subject but in 3 minutes, as we try to wind up this discussion. Nani Alsapong, how do we come to a certain conclusion on this? That SSNIT can maybe in the future go ahead with any attempts or effort to make sure they divest interest in dormant, whether it's hotels or other assets. But in what way should that be done?
There should be a clear-cut process.
Okay.
All right. And Roland, in my view, corruption should be redefined in this country.
What do you mean?
We had the president approaching Labour. Was the president informed about the transactional advisors report? Was he briefed? Now, yes, the transactional advisors report was not to be taken in absolute terms. It was the decision of the board whether or not to agree with what the transactional advisor is saying. But if you've engaged an expert to help you in your decision making, I think that you would have a responsibility to respect the opinions of the expert. If you did not trust him, if you did not trust him, then you shouldn't have from the start engaged the person. So if we are able to redefine corruption, then it means that we are able to actually help deal with the issues of corruption by leadership, by leaders demonstrating themselves, all right, that they personally have that level of political will to protect the nation. Roland, see this whole brouhaha. It wouldn't have been this way if they were not hands from above. You were talking about Madam Elizabeth, and Tamakulu was actually making certain very hard statements. Personally, I do not blame Madam Ohene. If you are in her position, and some hands and some voices from somewhere are pushing you, you will not even go behind your
I don't understand. She told you that
members.
Hands and voices were pushing her?
You will not go behind your board members.
She told you that?
To discuss or put a publication in the dailies.
Meaning what?
Meaning, in my opinion, she did not operate herself. She would dispute it, she would disagree with me, but there were some influences. For us to even hear the president involve himself in this, and the minister, without any proof, without any documentation, to sit and actually tell Ghanaians that they approve of this. Roland, after the transactional advisors report got to the board, in my view, any single pesewa that was spent in addition in this transaction, the board members and the management should be surcharged. It's causing financial loss to the state. If they did spend a penny after the transactional advisor submitted a report, they should be surcharged.
Surcharge of board management?
Yes. They should pay back Ghanaians' money. They are taxpayers' money. You engaged an expert to advise you. You go ahead and to this point, you have to actually reverse based on pressure from labor for you to go sit and reconsider the advice of your transactional advisor. If they have spent any other money from that, in my view, they should refund it. They should be surcharged. This is purely causing financial loss to the state. They have wasted our time. They have wasted our money. They've wasted every single minute of the pensioners' day. I believe that if we are able to actually take these steps, other boards and other entities, state-owned enterprises, would take a cue. They would be extra careful in taking decisions. They will be extra careful in wasting the taxpayers' money. They will be extra careful in actually coming out to defend things that are not supposed to be defended. If we let this go, it would continue. They would take it back, redress it, and bring it back to us.
Adeji, 3 minutes. Just wrap up on this subject.
You see, today, organized labor has demonstrated that they have the voice to get things done right in this country. And once again, I salute them. I salute the leadership of organized labor for their stand. You see, Akufo-Addo, in his usual man-palm leadership where he doesn't listen to anything, leadership of arrogance, leadership that today has become symptomatic with corruption. What it shows is that we need more of the activities of organized labor. And once again, if you read the Transaction Advisors Report dated 24th May 2024, it clearly says that in the scheme of affairs, Rock City cannot be considered to be a strategic investor. Meanwhile, Kofi Bosompe, Elizabeth Ohin, President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia were still bent on giving these hotels to Brana Champong. And like Dr. Mwakoba indicated, what is it about Brana Champong? What is it? I have no doubt.
He was operating a business.
I have no doubt in my mind that Brian was fronting for somebody.
You cannot make that conclusion. You're a legal practitioner. How do you make that conclusion?
Hold on.
Well incorporated.
Oh, please, hold on. I know where Rock City is. I know what it is. You see, I was on this platform that I told you that when a man decides to sell his pregnant goat, there might be a problem. What will make SSNIT want to sell these hotels urgently, hotels that are profitable for all intent and purpose? It should tell you, we must all, on the 7th day of December 2024, stand up against this man-palm leadership. Leadership that does not hear anything. The arrogance is just too much. And you see, Dr. Mwaku Ba raised an issue.
Wrap up for me.
Yes, and I'll wrap up. He said, look, if you go to Kumasi, the Inshaisu areas, going to the regional...
Are they non-government places?
You are coming. Medical doctors, Konfanoche and others, that is where they stay. Look, you have a situation where Senior Staff Association of Konfanoche doctors, you'll be in your house and somebody will come and say, your bungalow has been sold to me. So,
you know how I'm smiling.
I mean, what in God's name is happening? So they claim by Dr. Mwaku Ba is what is reflecting in a situation where we are selling prisons, lands. We are selling government of Ghana prime property. Look, trade fair now. As we speak, the Ghana Trade Fair that Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah did under the watch of Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, they are selling the trade fair to their cronies. The Du Bois Center is also a victim of this unbridled state capture by Dr. Bawumia and Akufo-Addo.
Really?
Look, we must all get this, that this spirited attempt to sell off Ghana to Akufo-Addo,
Dr. Mwaku Ba,
undermines the 1992 Constitution.
UTAG is saying that the board management must go. Is that a decision you think that should be tenable, that should be supported, in lieu of all that has happened?
Well, that's the difficulty, because it doesn't mean that all the board members voted to follow the leader. Yeah, I mean, there may be some who didn't. And so when you punish all of them with just one broom, it may not be fair. And so they have to study it a bit. They may want to retain those who did not agree and bring in new people. That's what I'll say. But to unilaterally punish all of them, it's not fair.
What should be the position of the president now? Do you expect that since he met organized labor on this subject, perhaps now that organized labor declared a strike for which within a 24-hour period we have the board responding in that order, perhaps he needs to make a statement to the country? And in what form do you expect the president to do that?
That's very difficult for me to decide, because I don't know what he's thinking about. The fact that he approached organized labor to support the deal is a very, very bad sign. You are the one who's supposed to safeguard the properties of the state, and you are the one who is instigating the state to sell it. So who is looking out for the country? Who is?
All right.
And this is not the first time. So many things have happened the same way.
All right.
What can I say?